CAF Women's Champions League final. And Germany completed a remarkable comeback to beat Argentina in the Davis Cup. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Nkhanza zokhudza amuna ndi azimayi kapena kuti gender-based violence GBV zikuwononga mioyo komanso kuphwasula midzi zikuchitika m'manyumba, m'masukulu, malo ogwirira ntchito ndipo kwambiri mwakachetechete koma sizikuyenera kupitirira. Mukazimva yankhulani, ngati mwakhuzidwa funani chithandizo chifukwa kusachita chilichonse sikuthandiza. Mverani kuma wireless onse 14 a SABC kuchokera lachitatu pa 23 mwezi uno wa Julai kuti mumve zokambirana, malangizo, masewero, zionetsero za maphunziro ndi mafunso okhuza nkhanza za amuna ndi azimayi ndi akatswiri, anthu opulumuka ku nkhanzazi, okhazikitsa lamulo komanso dziko lonse lokhuzidwa ndi nkhanzazi. Zonsezi pa wireless yomwe mumayikonda ya SABC. Imbirani pa nambala 0800 428 428 kuti munene za nkhanzazi kapena kupeza chithandizo. Nkhanza zokhuza amuna ndi azimayi zimatha ndi inu. Uthenga ukufikani kuchokera ku SABC.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, thank you to Jwalani Tulungwepe with our news update and Figile Lingwati with our sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African time and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 that's 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Global leaders, African insights. Follow the G20 summit with Channel Africa as it happens.
Well, today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, the United States has warned South Africa not to make a G20 declaration without its presence at the G20 Leaders Summit. The US has agreed its charge d'affaires in Pretoria will attend the declaration handover ceremony as a formality. Our question to you today is, should South Africa allow the US charge d'affaires to attend the handover ceremony? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 that's 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
The United States has sought to clarify its position on whether it has had a change of mind regarding the attendance of a G20 summit in Johannesburg. The White House has released a short statement saying its charge d'affaires in Pretoria will attend the declaration handover ceremony as a formality. However, the United States says it is not joining the G20 discussions themselves. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had this to say.
The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador or the representative of the embassy in South Africa is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
Speaking at the White House, President Trump's press secretary Caroline Leavitt has made it clear that the US will not be taking part in the G20 summit. She told reporters that she'd seen, quote, the South African president running his mouth a little bit and that it's not appreciated by the president and his team. Well, President Trump had previously said that no US officials would be taking part in the G20 summit in South Africa, in the first ever boycott of the multilateral event by any member state, claiming the US absence was justified because white Afrikaners were being killed in South Africa, a false claim that he's made repeatedly since returning to the White House. But on Thursday, President Cyril Ramaphosa said there'd been a change of mind and that Pretoria was in discussions with Washington over participating in one shape, form or the other in the summit. The White House called this fake news. They said that the chargé d'affaires in Pretoria will attend the handover ceremony as a formality, but that the United States is not joining G20 discussions. Now, that was reiterated by the press secretary, who said the US diplomat was not there to participate, as the president is falsely claiming. Washington had also warned Ramaphosa's administration not to attempt the publication of any joint statement given the US's absence. But President Ramaphosa said that talks with Washington were ongoing about more participation than just the diplomatic acceptance, saying they're still discussing how it will manifest. Certainly, sending a US diplomat to the G20 handover ceremony falls far short of full participation in the summit, which is traditionally attended by the US president. Kate Fisher, Washington.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 11 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. With the build-up to the G20 summit, we saw a number of summits taking place, the Social Summit in the east of Johannesburg and the B20, that's the business summit of the build-up to the G20 summit, which is taking place from the 22nd to the 23rd. And as Channel Africa will be on the ground at Nasrec, where all of this will be happening. And currently we have one of our editors who is on the ground, and she will give us basically a bird's eye view of what we should expect, and yourselves, when we get there tomorrow, which is a very exciting time as Channel Africa, as we show you and give you updates on from the ground. Ayanda, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu.
Now, you're there, and just tell us what's happening now and just what it all looks like, because visually we've seen some of the visuals on all our screens, but you're there on the ground. Tell us about the buzz.
Well, Lulu, I can definitely say that we are ready to start the summit tomorrow. The stage has been set. There's a media frenzy. There are a high police contingent outside. Media, you can see that they're already starting to do their last-minute setups, testings as well. We have our 5 sister stations who are also going to be broadcasting here from Nasrec Expo Center. The shuttles outside have been arranged, so nobody will be allowed to park or to drive all the way to Nasrec Expo Center, but rather use the park and ride facilities which have been provided just outside the gates, lower down, with a bus that you're going to have to wait 10-15 minutes for it to fill up just before it takes you to Nasrec. So it's very well organized. I'm just going to move my camera so you can get an idea of what I'm seeing here. So behind me, you can see we've got a big television screen. We've got a seating area. We've got the dining hall area, and also flags have been put there of the countries that are expected to be participating at this year's G20 summit. So it seems like everything is ready to go, and really in a matter of hours now, it'll be all eyes on South Africa.
Is Ayanda Mkwanazi, who is one of our editors here at Channel Africa, joining us live from Nasrec, where the G20 summit will be taking place tomorrow, the 22nd, and on Sunday on the 23rd. It is 14 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Gratitude begins with a story. Find yours on Channel Africa. Now streaming on our new website and mobile app.
Operation Dudula will hold a peaceful protest in Johannesburg, South Africa during the G20 Leaders Summit this weekend to highlight concerns about unemployment, crime and access to services, which they blame on illegal immigration. The protest comes as the country hosts world leaders for the G20 Summit. And for more, we are joined by Operation Dudula President Zandile Dabula. Zandile, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu, and to the listeners at home and the viewers. Thank you so much for having us this afternoon.
Now, Zandile, how does Operation Dudula plan to ensure that its protest remains peaceful and doesn't disrupt the G20 summit or pose a risk to world leaders and attendees?
Lulu, we have been doing, such for 5 years. And, it's a privilege, I must say, to be hosting such a summit in South Africa, especially because it's the first in Africa. And we would really not want to disrupt it. We are just trying to send a message across here, especially to the president of this country, that, it can really be meaningless if we're going to be, having international recognition while South Africans continue to struggle to finding work, access to, quality services, and, going to bed on an empty stomach. So we're trying to send a message because it's been ignoring us for a very long time. But it will definitely be a peaceful picket. The only issue that we have here now is that we've been trying to get hold of the law enforcers because, this is supposed to be a peaceful protest. But they have taken us and put us where nobody is going to see us, not even, the delegates will be passing through. And it's going to, we not just with Operation Dudula, but we've been receiving numerous calls from other organizations to say how they are unhappy about the spots where they have been placed for the pickets, because remember, there's different organizations that have planned this picketing at the summit. But they feel like they've been blocked and they're not really happy about it. I wish the law enforcers can correct that so that there's no chaos when we get there tomorrow. People should be free, have a free movement. And, because we've done everything, we've applied, it's in the confines of the law. Our protest is lawfully. So they shouldn't be the ones that are blocking people from getting their message across to the leaders of the other countries. Because what we really want is for these leaders to sit and assist the president of South Africa with regards to immigration issues, because it's clear that he does not have the capacity to deal with it. Maybe other leaders can also help him and also caution him on the safety of even then the leaders of other countries, because anybody can come and anything can happen. And if it's done by an undocumented foreigner, who will be held accountable for that person, because the person that would have created crime in that specific time would not be known. So there's a lot of things that comes, negative things that comes with having illegal foreigners in our country. And if we're going to have investors, how are they going to invest in a country that's chaotic? There's no law and order in this country. So President Ramaphosa needs to first clean his own house and then get to the stage of talking about other countries and all that. So that's the message that we're trying to send across here.
Now, if peaceful protests like Operation Dudula succeed in raising awareness, what unintended consequences could rise from a heightened anti-immigration sentiment, particularly in a country with a historic xenophobic, violence? How do you ensure that it doesn't get to that point?
That's the same reason that they should see us tomorrow on how we conduct our protest. Operation Dudula has been in existence for 5 years. And, if I want you to tell me, if I'm not correct, that there hasn't been any xenophobic attack since we have started with these operations, because with everything that we do, we try to be in the confines of the law. Our protest has always been peaceful because we go and apply for our marches. and we are granted access to go and march. That's the reason why we'll have law enforcers in those marches. But it's up to the government on how they're going to portray us to, as the world's leaders, and how are they going to behave towards us in the next 2 days in front of the world leaders, because that would just be, a turning point on the whole peaceful protest. But we know how to get our members in order, and we take full accountability on whatever happens on the day. But I do promise that this is no reason to cause distraction, but we just want the attention of the leaders of these countries.
And just very quickly, Zandile, in wrapping up, your organization attributes unemployment, crime and service delivery issues to illegal immigration. What specific policy changes or government actions would you like to see implemented to address these concerns?
The only thing that needs to happen here, Lulu, is enforcement of the current existing laws in the country. Our laws are beautiful. They are on point. Yes, some there and there needs to be changed. But for employment, we have inspectors from Labor Department that are supposed to be visiting these companies, curbing employment of illegal foreigners. If you are documented and you are a foreigner, what special skill are you bringing to the country? Those things. We have so many companies which are breaking the laws. Some of them are not paying people, proper salaries according to the Labor Act. And they get away with it because the inspectors are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And, unfortunately, that our brothers and sisters from other countries are being exploited. Now, these employers are using them to make more profit in their businesses. But it's a shame to them because they're also trying to make a living. But it cannot continue like this. So if law enforcers and, officials can start doing what they are expected to do, then even our unemployment rate will drop, because that's the only thing that's happening in this country.
All right, Zandile, we will leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That's Operation Dudula President Zandile Dabula joining us on the line. It is 22 after 12 Central African Time.
The world is watching Johannesburg. Leaders from the planet's biggest economies gather to make decisions that shape nations, markets, and futures. You already know Channel Africa will be right there, bringing you the conversations, insights, and analysis that matter.
The best is yet to come.
The G20 Summit from the 22nd to the 23rd of November. As it happens, from an African perspective, stay tuned to Channel Africa and get all the G20 analysis. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 23 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, various activists joined the conversations that took place at this week's G20 Social Summit, which ended yesterday, which was on Thursday. One of those conversations is the fact that it is going to be important for South Africa to make sure it isn't just a talk shop, but rather a gathering to put into action issues plaguing the continent. One person who has been watching developments at the summit is a feminist activist from Cameroon, Eucharia Nkengafak, who now joins us live in studio. Eucharia, how are you today? And thank you for making time for us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm doing well and happy to see the smiling faces here in Johannesburg, but also to see how you all are putting your hands together in fighting violence against women and girls.
Yes, most definitely. Now, let's start off with the work that you are doing in Cameroon, especially focusing on gender-based violence.
Yes, in Cameroon, gender-based violence is also recurrent, just like in every other country, and just like recently South Africa has declared it a national disaster. And while here at the G20 Social Summit, one of my advocacy points in the different spaces I had as Women of the South Speak Out Fellow was to contribute in the conversations on how different stakeholders in their different spaces can take up their leadership roles and can take up the actions that they do what they can do in their different spaces to ensure that women and girls have an opportunity to speak up for themselves. They are safe to speak up and they have an opportunity to be heard. And also that different stakeholders contribute in setting up structures that help them to really recover, survival-centered care, so that the development we are all seeking, they will be part and parcel of the process. They will not be left out because of violence that they experience.
Now, what was your impression of the summit and what were you hoping to come out of it?
All right. So my impression about the summit, first of all, is because I think it's important for us to have these gatherings where we are able to, where there are global voices. Because before the summit, we had briefing sessions on WOSO Fellowship about what the summit is about, and also about how President Cyril Ramaphosa is wanting to make sure grassroots voices are actually heard. So during the summit, in the engagement sessions like the W20, we had a session where we talked about violence against women and girls, and it was just not me. So this voice is not just my voice, but it's a representation of the voices of a lot of women from West, from East, from Central and Southern Africa during this fellowship, where we had a common ground and a common understanding that violence against women and girls, gender-based violence, is something that is happening in each and everyone's country. And so we cannot afford to relent our efforts. During this summit, we share our voice, we speak up, we share the experiences and the things we see happening in our country, but then we bring our voices together to say, what is happening in XYZ country that I can learn from? And what is the common goal? To stand in solidarity as young women in the spaces where we are and speak up against violence and ensure that our different actions, big or small, contribute in ending the violence. And the opening of the summit emphasized gender-based violence against women and girls. It talked about other development issues, climate change and financial inequalities overall. Then you realize that some of these inequalities are seen through violence against women and girls. And we need the allyship, we need the multi-stakeholder engagements, but we also need men and boys to come on board because it's for everyone, it's for humanity, it's for development, and it's for sustainability. So the essence is, let's harness our voice, let's come together, let's rethink and reflect and make sure whatever we do, we reduce and get to a point where gender-based violence is no more recurrent, but is history. And we start living lives happily together in development and sustainability, so that everybody, regardless of their gender, everybody, including women and girls who are now experiencing violence, can live in a violent-free world and equally, meaningfully participate in all processes that can lead to the new and beautiful world, peaceful world that we are all looking for.
And how are you hoping the leaders at the summit deal with the challenges that have been raised? Because it's not the first time these challenges have been raised. It might be at a bigger scale, but they're there on a daily basis.
Okay. I'm hoping, first of all, that the declaration from the just ended social summit, first of all, it reaches the global leaders who will be meeting soon, and they first of all make it priority on their list, and they and then they take into consideration the different preventive measures that have to be implemented to end violence against women and girls. Because if we end at the declaration and we go and we keep it in our folders and our files, then we have started something, but we have not made progress. The only way to make progress is to action the declarations, is to make sure global leaders have it in their agenda, but also that they mainstream it into the different sectors of their programming, to ensure that different sectors make prioritize their activities and mainstream gender in everything that they do, and they consider that violence against women and girls is not supposed to happen in any sector. Then from there you realize that safe spaces will start being created, and everybody, women and girls, will have an opportunity to better engage. Now after that, they should also Global leaders should be able to create opportunities where they support local initiatives. Because from the grassroots levels, the leaders cannot do it alone. We are talking about solidarity and collective action. So while they are mainstreaming it, they are looking at how they will take it to the grassroots levels, and they do it in a collective way and give everybody a voice and a chance. But also global financing has to come into place, because if we finish talking and the initiatives are not supported, if the initiatives are not funded, then nothing will still happen. For example, if you have to create safe spaces for women and girls, if you need to provide survival-centered care, if you need to engage in advocacy initiatives, awareness-raising initiatives, they require financing as well. We need the political will to step in, because these are the leaders that have been given the mantra to serve the people. So if they do not incorporate it into their leadership agenda, then it is still not going to yield the fruits that we want to see: a violence-free world, a world where women and girls live dignified lives. So I think the call by the president of South Africa, tagging gender-based violence and femicide against women as a national disaster is something that is not only a South African issue. For me, I think it's symbolic of what is happening in other countries, based on my interactions with young women from other countries, especially within the fellowship, because they come from different parts of Africa. So that is, I think it's symbolic, and it's a pattern that is happening in Africa. Maybe South Africa has documented a lot of it, and are able to have these statistics. But other countries have these same patterns running through the systems. So I feel like this is a good practice. Let's replicate it and let's action it. And at the end of the day, let's make sure we contribute in ending violence in the different spaces where we are. In this fellowship where I'm Women of the South Speaker Fellowship, we say, in every space where you are. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, no. Go ahead. Just finish off that sentence.
Yeah, the mantra we use is that in every space where you are, be bright in that corner. It means wherever you are, big or small, whatever space, that you make every contribution to promote equality, to promote development, and to promote sustainability.
Eukaria, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much for having me.
Feminist activist from Cameroon, Eukaria Nkengafek, joining us live in studio. Our news headlines up next with Shralani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, some world representatives have expressed mixed reactions over the United States' decision not to attend the G20 summit in Johannesburg, South Africa this weekend. Nigeria's High Court has convicted detained separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu on terrorism charges and sentenced him to life imprisonment. And finally, the Colombian delegation at the UN Climate Summit in Brazil says more than 30 countries have signed a letter opposing a draft proposal text because it fails to refer to the phasing out of fossil fuels. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Let's kick off with football news. The stage is set for the CAF Women's Champions League final as former champions AS FAR face debutants ASEC Mimosas in a much-anticipated final. Following yet another exciting addition to Africa's most prestigious club football tournament, the AS FAR and ASEC Mimosas are the two remaining contenders for the CAF Women's Champions League 2025 crown, set to be contested at the Suez Canal Stadium in Ismailia, Egypt. In addition to the coveted title, the 2025 victors will qualify for the playoff round to the FIFA Women's Champions Cup, making today's contest an even tighter affair. The two finalists' journey to the final has been nothing short of exceptional amidst a tough group stage and semi-final phase. Some more football news. A significant boost for Kaizer Chiefs is the return of several players from injury, including the likes of Given Masango and Paseka Mago, which Mutaung believes will help them build on their momentum.
Very much important. I mean, it gives you your time to gel together, to understand, gain your momentum. At the same time, it's a two-edged sword, like we always say. It's like this gives us time to integrate some other players who come back from injury. We welcome people like Given who've been out for a while, so it gives you that time to give other people minutes in the FIFA break. Also to reflect and see what has worked, what brought us to this point, and where we can still improve.
On to motor racing, Max Verstappen has his eye on former teammate Daniel Ricciardo's old race car number if he has to relinquish the Champions One next season. Red Bull's 4 times world champion raced with the 33 before he took his first title in 2021, with plenty of numbered merchandise sold. But he told Dutch reporters in Las Vegas that he really wanted the Australians 3. A change in the rules yet to be approved means drivers will no longer have to stick with the same number through their careers, but Ricciardo's remains technically unavailable despite him announcing his retirement. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The Upside, taking the African perspective to fresh levels.
From Channel Africa, about to have ourselves a good time right now.
Come on, brother.
It's a whole thing.
You've partnered up with Focalistic, based on a true story.
You know, it's actually crazy for you to put it like that, partnered up. You know, this is someone I look up to from a very long time. 3 years ago, we put out a single, Pele Pele.
Yeah.
You know, that was my first record with him. This project, based on a true story, the album was so highly anticipated and premeditated on our end, you know, because it's something we constantly, you know, kept on going back and forth about, but we never actioned it. It's actually quite crazy because all of this is happening whilst we are both working on our albums. You know, I'm working on my album 31314 because there's a record, 31314, the interlude. So it's like a prelude to the album, you know.
Let me pronounce it properly. Is it 31314? 31314. Oh, 31314. The Upside, live and real. It's dynamic. Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon. China has signed a $1.4 billion agreement with Zambia and Tanzania to modernize the Tazara Railway linking landlocked Zambia to the Indian Ocean. The railway, financed by China in the 1970s to facilitate copper exports and fuel imports through Tanzania, remains a critical trade route and is widely seen as countering the US and EU-backed Lobito corridor, a route from Angola through Zambia to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The agreement was signed during a visit to Zambia by Chinese Premier Li Qiang. The first such visit in 28 years, at a time when Africa's second largest copper producer is emerging from a financial crisis. Qiang says the refurbishment cements relations between China and Africa.
We should strengthen infrastructure connectivity, consolidating railway, roads, ports, and other infrastructure to build multimodal transport corridor and a modern logistics system. On the other hand, we should strengthen institutional connectivity concerning customs, commodity inspection, and taxes to promote greater facilitation of trade and investment. Looking into the future, China-Africa cooperation enjoys vast prospects.
The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, says it is unacceptable that it costs African countries 20% more to trade with each other than with nations outside the continent. Speaking at the annual Chief Albert Luthuli Memorial Lecture at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Okonjo-Iweala said Africa has not benefited fully from the multilateral trading system and remains poorly integrated into global markets. She also called for the introduction of an African visa to help cut the cost of doing business across borders and boost trade within the continent.
We must continue the battle. And that's what makes me wake up every day, because we have not benefited enough on the African continent. We cannot allow the ladder that allowed others to climb up to be kicked away just when we are getting ready. We must battle for it.
South Africa's Democratic Alliance Party says that the prolonged suspension of senior government officials is costing taxpayers millions of dollars and exposing deep failures in government's internal labor systems. This comes as UIF Commissioner Teboho Maruping remains on full pay more than a year into his latest suspension, with his disciplinary hearing still unresolved. This was revealed by the Minister of Employment and Labour, Noma Nkosazana Meth, in a written parliamentary reply from the DA. DA spokesperson on Employment and Labour, Michael Barkram, says the state is routinely suspending officials for months, even years, while paying them full salaries and failing to conclude disciplinary hearings. He says that the pattern reveals a civil service in crisis.
Not years, on full pay. It is disastrous. It has been revealed that government has spent millions of taxpayers' money on endless suspensions, never getting to the disciplinary hearing, and on many occasions just bringing them back to work. They appear to have been either reckless or unable to run internal labour relations within our government.
Britain's borrowing in the first 7 months of the financial year was the highest on record, except during the COVID pandemic. This is according to data from the Office for National Statistics that lays bare the scale of the challenge facing Finance Minister Rachel Reeves in a budget next week. Government borrowing between April and October totaled $152.9 billion, over $13 billion more than forecast by analysts. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,453 naira. In Botswana, it's at 13.47. Kenya, 128 shilling 97, and Zambia, 22 kwacha 86. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5.33. Russia, 80 rubles 30. India, 88 rupees 66. China, 71.10. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 20 cents. 76 pence, a British pound, 86 to the euro. Gold is trading at $4,040. Platinum, $1,507 per ounce. Brand crude oil is at $62.32 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Thabisolo Huku.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Well, thank you to Thabisolo Huku with our business news. It is 12:42 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Well, continue with us on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +27 11 714 4459.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, earlier on, we're speaking to a feminist activist from Cameroon, Eukaria Nkengafek, and she's still with us in studio, and would like to continue this conversation and just find out, exactly what you think. Thank you for staying with us once again, and just what do you think needs to happen going forward, especially with the declaration of GBV being a disaster? What needs to happen going forward? We were speaking off air, and we touched on the financial aspect of everything that needs to happen going forward.
Yes, thank you. What needs to be done going forward? I would say the fact that the host country, South Africa, the country hosting this summit, has declared GBV as a national disaster. I would say this is something like leaders responding and accepting that this is something we need to address. And I think it's a good practice for us to now trickle it down, because it's not just South Africa, as I said earlier. It's happening in different countries all over the world. Cameroon is not left out. Gender-based violence is happening in Cameroon. Women are being killed in Cameroon. There's femicide happening in Cameroon. We have had cases of gender-based violence. We have had cases of femicide. Also in Nigeria, also in Ghana, in all countries, we have had those cases. Now, the best thing to do is action, because the declaration from this summit, if we are not taking action, nothing will change. We will, maybe next time we will come back for another gathering and talk about violence when we have not taken the action that we need to take. Now, the African Union is a member of this G20 Social Summit, a permanent member. Yes. And I know they have a mandate. There's the AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, and there's also a lot being done to ensure that is mainstreamed and localized in different communities. So I think this is an opportunity. This is like coming together of forces and multi-stakeholders to ensure that there's that common goal of equality and an end in violence. Now, from the leaders, there's needs now to, because if you have the declaration and you have the AU Convention on Ending Violence, you have this GBV as part of the conversations that has been ongoing in the G20 Social Summit and also in the different engagement groups. What is the way forward? We need to invest in ending violence. Apart from coming and sitting in the meetings and discussing, which is very important, we need to take more steps, invest in ending violence, in human resources to end violence, financially to end violence. Because when I say financially, it's because you have to provide the survival-centered care, create safe spaces that relies heavily on finance, but also the political will for it to be mainstreamed in the programs of the leaders. And then we need it to go right to the grassroots, because gender-based violence is and femicide. We don't have to wait for women to die first before we start talking about it over and over. We need to start tackling it from the base and start talking about it, raise awareness, let people be informed. And I'll say it's not an issue for women and girls only. It's an issue for everyone. Men and boys, girls and women. It's for everybody to make it a priority. Because I'll tell you, when gender-based violence is rampant and skyrocketing, now it's a national disaster in SA, it's going to affect other aspects of life, because it will intersect with other aspects of life. You intersect with the labor force, low levels of participation. You intersect with education. You intersect with involvement in public policy decision making. So if we want to see development in all aspects of the world that we are looking for, because this is a world gathering, then we need to ensure that we are fighting gender-based violence, looking at all the intersectionalities and all the things that interconnect to contribute to violence. Now we have gender stereotypes, we have customs and traditions, we still have the stigma, we still have the lack of political will, we still have the low implementation of policies. Because it's not like the policies are absent. The policies are there. Some are being strengthened, some are being revised, and some have come up. We have the Beijing Plus, we are at Beijing Plus 30 now. And that has been a blueprint for gender equality. The last CSW was focusing on it. 30 years after the implementation, what gains and what losses. So we need to work with all this, the Maputo Protocol, the CEDAW, the African Union Convention on Ending Violence, also holding on to this social summit, and build connection from there and build proper action, intentionality. The will of the people, the will of everyone has to come on board. And I'll say collective action is what will help us. It's not a women and girls issue. Men and boys are key allies in this process. Multi-stakeholders are key allies. And if you are doing business, don't say, I'm in the business sector, it's a women's issue, it doesn't concern me. If you're into menstrual health, justice, and dignity, don't say, it's menstrual. I'll tell you, I'm currently co-leading a campaign in Cameroon on taxes, sanitary pads, and menstrual poverty. During the conversations, you see there are girls and women who will stay in abusive relationships because they cannot afford their sanitary pads.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So
no,
it's a lot happening.
Yes,
we need
there
to
is a
take
lot.
action. And this is important. Thank you.
Eukaria, it's been a pleasure. Thank you once again for staying and chatting to us more. Thank you for your time on Africa Update.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
That's a feminist activist from Cameroon, Eukaria Ngekafek, and she was joining us live here in studio in Auckland Park.
Your life, your rhythm, your Africa. Channel Africa. Find it for free on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
And it is, 12:49 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. And in studio with me is Matseko Musito. How are you today? It's a happy Friday, it's a purple Friday, it's a black Friday.
Yes, I wanted to say I really wanted to be a happy Friday, but we all obviously coming in solidarity with what is happening in our country, with the 21st of November being the shutdown day and memorandums being handed over. We really want to see change for women in South Africa. So yeah, we hope it'll be a happy Friday. We really are.
We do hope it will be a happy Friday. Yes. And what's coming up on the upside today?
Okay, in 10 minutes we begin, just after the news bulletin. We have had the privilege of having international guest Stone Boy from Ghana and master collaborators visited the show. Today we have Harrison Crump from the US who's going to be joining me in studio. We're going to talk about his career in dance music, producing, DJing, all that wonderful stuff. It's a Friday, so we're going to keep it nice and musical.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're looking forward to that. Harrison Crump. Yeah, we all know that name.
Kind of lives here now.
That's the upside coming up at the top of the hour with Matseko. And Debucho will be back next week, and he will be together with Matseko on the upside. And as Africa Updates, we continue with our programming, and a lot coming up on that front. As you know, the G20 summit is kicking off tomorrow, the 22nd of November, and the 23rd Sunday will be the final day. And we will be on the ground. Our teams are going to be there. I will be there. A lot of colleagues will be on the ground and doing the coverage of what will be coming out from the G20 summit and what the expectations are going forward. And there is a hive of activity at the Nasrec Center, as you heard Ayanda Mkwanazi just speaking about what she is seeing on the ground. It is 12:52 Central African Time.
The G20 Summit through African eyes, live updates, and expert voices only on Channel Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
The United States has warned South Africa not to make a G20 declaration without its presence at the G20 Leaders Summit. The U.S. has agreed its charge d'affaires in Pretoria will attend the declaration handover ceremony as a formality. But South African presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya I beg your pardon. Vincent Magwenya said on X that President Cyril Ramaphosa will not hand over the G20 presidency to a charge d'affaires after the U.S. reiterated that it would not attend any G20 discussions this weekend. Africa's first G20 summit will include representatives of 42 countries. Our Dr. Sithembele Mbete, Executive Director of the Public Affairs Research Institute, weighs in on this.
And the reality is that Charge d'Affaires effectively is a relatively junior official, right, compared to the president. Yes, their candidate for ambassador to South Africa hasn't been confirmed yet, and so that ambassadorial post is vacant currently. And so the charge d'affaires, the person who is responsible for managing U.S. relations, U.S.-South Africa relations in the absence of an ambassador. And so, you know, it is an important diplomatic service role, but relative to the head of state is a very junior position. And I think that putting the foot down on the part of South Africa to say, well, we're not going to be treated as junior partners, we're not going to be treated as as insignificant by the United States, with us, with you bringing forward this relatively junior person to be the one that collects the declaration from the president. And so, have some respect for us. Of course, there's a whole then story about what the logistics will be for the official. The handover is happening. The handover process has actually already begun. So in the finance track, for example, the finance ministers meeting took place in October, and there was a declaration, a finance minister's declaration that the United States had signed up to, that was done. And so on the finance track, the handover of all the finance issues, the agenda, there's working that's taking place between the finance track Sherpa, who is Duncan Peterson, who's the Director General of Finance, and also the central bank, the Reserve Bank, and the US officials in finance that's already been taking place over the last few months. And so, the question of then who the official, what the moment will be marked by, I think that's what's important. How will the moment of handover be marked? It's symbolic. There's a lot of power play here. That the work is going to continue. The work is already handed over to some degree. I mean, the US, I think, has got some meetings already scheduled. They've already said that there's summits happening in Miami. There's a sense of what their theme is going to be. And so that's going to happen. It's just that what's the photo op going to look like? And that symbolic handover. And remember that so much of diplomacy is that symbolism. South Africa's theme for its G20 was solidarity, equality, sustainability. And remember that this is the fourth G20 summit by a developing nation in sequence. So we had Indonesia in 2022, India in 2023, Brazil 2024, South Africa 2025. And the whole idea was that these four big global South powers and nations were going to advance a global South agenda consecutively from each of their summits in order to really center the issues of inequality, issues of development, issues of solidarity within the G20's agenda, because the global North bias, of course, is to treat those issues as not as important. And so, what South Africa has done is really continue with what was set up in the agendas of this previous of the previous presidencies. And you saw that manifested. So let's take the inequality issue, for example. So South Africa commissioned the first G20 study on inequality, chaired an extraordinary committee on inequality chaired by Professor Joseph Stiglitz, who is a Nobel Prize winner. And this was really critical because the issues of inequality have been a big thing for global South nations for decades. South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. We've got the highest Gini coefficient for income inequality in the world, but it is an issue that is increasingly plaguing the rest of the world. So the global North is now needing to face up to inequality because you've seen this rise of billionaires all over the world, a huge amount of income generated by the very wealthy and wealth generated that's gone to the 1% with the 99% both within countries but also between countries being excluded from the gains of the last 10, 20 years. And so South Africa is putting the inequality issue on the agenda and putting that as an issue that all global leaders need to grapple with is a significant thing.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
And that was Dr. Stembile Mbete, Executive Director of the Public Affairs Research Institute, ending that report. And just, it is 12:58 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Continue with us on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Stay tuned to Channel Africa. Stream us on our new and updated website, channelafrica.co.za.
And that's how we wrap Africa Update today. It's been a busy week and a good Friday. And, go onto our social media platforms and just see all the different, stuff that is on there with regards to today. The week has been all about the G20, and it is finally here. Tomorrow and on Sunday, Channel Africa will be on the ground at Nasrec, where the summit of the G20 leaders will be underway. And with a lot of coverage there. Different shows are going to be there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 p.m. in the evening. And that's a wrap. Continue with us on our socials, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.